Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Heelcast. This week we have a very, very special guest, Wildcat Chris Harris. Chris, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for coming on the show. So, Chris, you got a long wrestling career. You got a lot to talk about tonight. But how did it start? Where did your love of professional wrestling, where did it all begin?
I think like a lot of guys, it began about 2 feet away from the TV on Saturday morning.
What was some of the main shows or promotions that you watched?
I think there was more than one. I was too young, I guess, to really know the difference as far as the territories were concerned. But it was sometime maybe 86 that I really started getting into it. And of course, by that time, WWF was big and pretty much the big one. So I watched that, but then I got really enticed with NWA as well. So I kind of bounced back and forth between the two of those.
Cool. Did you watch any Mid-South?
I want to say I did, man, but I don't remember specifics about it.
Cool. So when was the point where you made that decision where you want to be a professional wrestler?
Well, I kind of fell in love with it watching it. And then 86, they started doing the build up for the big, the WrestleMania 3, which was the following year in 87. And I think a lot of guys have said this, and I think we've all heard it so many times, but it really is true for me. But when I saw the Savage Steamboat match, I just completely fell for it. And I was hooked. From then on, I was hooked on just about everything. And of course I couldn't have been too serious about actually getting in the business at the time, but that's when I really loved the business and loved what I was watching. And these guys became like superheroes to me.
And so what was the school that you ended up going to?
I don't know if a lot of people may not have remembered. There was one called the Monster Factory that was pretty popular back in the day. And it was owned by 3 guys, and then they split off and had 3 separate schools. One of them was Charlie Fulton, and he had a school in Marion, Ohio. I'm from the Cincinnati area, so I just kind of looked into some well-known schools. Even though I later found out there was some closer to home. But they just had a really, really good reputation. And so I looked into that, and it was a 3.5 hour drive every week. But that's where I wound up going. It was under Charlie Fulton. And then later on, I studied under Kid Collins, and then completed my training back in Cincinnati under Roger Ruffin.
Wow. And
so
obviously that was...
I got a question. I know you got your start in WCW. Did you just have a tryout there, or did somebody kind of hook you up over there, or how'd you get connected with WCW?
Well, I spent several years on the indie circuit, just paying my dues and learning my craft, and even during doing the indies, you have to. You're traveling a lot. Your life is on the road because you don't have the luxury of the plane rides. So you're driving hours on end. So I was branching out, I guess, in '99, and Nashville was a big wrestling circuit down there, and so I started going down there. They were interested, so I started making that a regular stop for me, and that was under Burt Prentice. He ran some championship wrestling down there. Well, he had a connection with Terry Taylor, who worked for WCW. And it was one of those deals where, just to have some extras, for like security and things like that, so they sent a handful of guys in. I was one of them. And amongst doing security for like Nitro and Thunder, for their Saturday night tapings and their worldwide tapings, they would let us have some matches on those type deals. So I kind of started in a security deal with WCW thanks to Terry Taylor and the connection with him. But with my matches I was having out of the group that was going from Nashville, I was the only one offered a contract. So it kind of, it happened like that, man. It was just one of those dream come true things, at the time, it's just the big two. So to be able to be under contract with one of the big two that was life changing.
And then they had you pose as a fake Sting. Who came up to you with that idea?
Gosh, that's hard to say. I don't even remember a certain one person, but just the writers. I guess there was a group of them, but I just had a familiar look with Sting, at least the Sting when he was doing the Crow gimmick, because I had the longer hair, and so I don't know if Sting himself maybe mentioned it or if it was just an idea from him from watching me wrestle, but they had an idea, and a lot of people think I just did it maybe one time that they can remember, but I did the Sting thing several times. I mean, there were times I was in the rafters. There were times I was in a coffin. And then I think the most famous time was it was a Halloween Havoc of the year 2000 where I came up from under the ring.
What was the energy like backstage, like in the 2001 era? Like, people, obviously people are so down on that time because it was the end of WCW. What was the energy like backstage? Did you kind of feel like it was coming to an end at some point, or you didn't even have that indication?
On my end, I would have to say the energy felt good because we were just happy to be there. We were getting opportunities that we had looked for years. I didn't know the inner workings and how things were going, so I really had no idea that things were as bad as they were. I mean, I guess at some point you can just watch the show and tell it was going downhill, but I may have seen some different altercations in the back, just different interactions where I could tell that a lot of people were on edge, but I couldn't tell you anything that was going on in the inside in the office or anything, just because I was happy to be there and I thought that this was a great opportunity. And, they were going to start looking at some of the young guys. And, it wasn't until I guess early 2001 where, the writing was on the wall and people started noticing that, hey, some things are going to change and we may not even be around.
And I know you did the Sting stuff and then you did the R&B security. Were there plans for you to kind of get into a storyline, kind of maybe debut you with a video package or anything like that?
Well, the one thing that was talked about, I'm not sure how many people remember this, but I was actually in a country music video back in 2000. And it was played on CMT, and there was another station too. I can't remember what it was, but it was pretty popular, and it had a whole. It was revolved around wrestling and a wrestling character, and so I thought that was a very unique way of introducing somebody. It was something that hadn't been done before, and so there was talk of debuting me with a country music video. And so I got excited because it was something that was new. So I thought, well, hey, this isn't some repeat performance, where of kind of like what you were saying, some video package and introducing a new character. This was something that people could really get behind with the video. And there was even talk of me starting something with Jeff Jarrett, because he was doing the whole I don't know if it was the country singer or whatever, but you guys probably remember, he's carrying the guitar and
Mm-hmm.
and,
Yeah.
and all that. So, and Jeff was a top guy in WCW, so there was talk of doing something with him, but it was quickly shot down. I mean, I didn't get too excited about it because it was quickly shot down. They started to say that it was too country and too hick, and which is funny because WCW was a Southern operation. So for them to say that, I thought, what, that's perfect. So what? It's so country and hick. That's perfect for a Southern wrestling organization. But it was quickly shot down. But there was talk about doing something like that.
So backstage when you were in WCW at the time there, who kind of were you palling around with? And also, was there anybody backstage at the time that you could just say was maybe just a complete asshole or a dick, and maybe one of the top guys that kind of just didn't treat everyone else, I guess, nicely?
I know a couple of guys that were really cool was Shannon Moore, Shane Helms. I think probably because even though they were kind of being featured on TV, they were still up and comers and young guys that were looking for opportunities. So I never felt like they were looking to backstab anybody. But those were some pretty cool guys. But as far as guys at the top, even though I get along with him now, if I saw him, I don't think that he would mind us saying this because he'd probably agree with it himself. But I saw Scott Steiner be a dick quite a few times.
I knew that name was going to come out of your mouth for some reason.
Now I've gotten a chance to work with Scott many times in TNA. He's a cool guy. He's awesome.
Yeah.
But even he would probably say how much of a dick he was back in the day.
Yeah. I tell this story a couple times before. When I was a kid, I live in South Florida, and they used to have wrestlers come to the mall by me back in like 98, 99. They had a sports memorabilia store, and they would have wrestlers there all the time. And my father became close with the owner of the store, so he'd ask all the time, who do you have coming in? They had Lex Luger come, Buff Bagwell came a couple times, and the Giant came. And he said there was one guy who was just the biggest asshole, and he would never even give him the time of day. And that was Scott Steiner.
I don't find that hard to believe at all.
So I kind of expected that name to come out of your mouth.
Scott has definitely mellowed out in the later years.
Yeah.
Another guy that I would say the same way was Buff. I wrestled Buff a couple times. I don't even know what years they were, but it was way after WCW, and I got along with him great. Super cool attitude. But back then, I think he was so full of himself that he was kind of a prick to a lot of guys.
They're probably riding that NWO wave, kind of.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know I hope he's okay now. I don't know if you've seen any of his stuff lately or his shoots lately, but.
No, I have.
He did one with Hannibal and didn't look too good, to say the least.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, I think he was.
Anytime somebody in the wrestling business, if you say they're not looking too good, you never know what that means.
Mm-hmm. Well, he was drunk.
Oh shit!
And openly admitting it, but hey, I don't know. I hope that's all that it was.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. So then, when WCW, came to a close, obviously you're just looking to make the big break. How devastating was that you just get signed by the number 2 company at the time, and all of a sudden it's just no longer there?
Oh, huge heartbreak, man. Huge. All these years that the big 2 have been around, and you finally get signed, and I mean, who would think that no one would go out of business? So yeah, that was devastating, and I think everybody was kind of looking, okay, well, is there the next direction going to WWF? But the truth is they're only going to take so many, only a handful of people. And I think the bottom line for that was they didn't take a lot of the top guys, which I think the top guys may not have wanted to go because they had such good guarantees on their contract for however long. And they weren't going to take bottom guys like myself. So they took a lot of the mid-card guys like, Hugh Morris and Booker T and, guys like that they were jumping on because it was good talent that they could develop. So, yeah, I mean, it was pretty devastating and, but it was kind of like back to the drawing board, just keep plugging away and hopefully some more opportunities come later.
Yeah, that was a very dark time too in the wrestling business with, ECW and then WCW closing. I can only imagine it was, maybe the indies were thriving at that time. I'm not real sure, but at least as a fan's perspective, it was very dark.
Yeah, it was dark for all of us. I think a lot of guys had some ideas of starting their own promotion since some place as big as WCW had gone down, and I was part of one of those companies.
I was going to ask you about a specific one. I wondered if you had any interest in at the time the XWF that Jimmy Hart and Greg Valentine and I think Brian Knobs started up. I wanted to see, did you hear anything about that, and were you did you have any involvement in that at all?
I think I heard something about it, but I guess I didn't have the right connections at the time.
They had some stars. They got Kurt Hennig. They had, Hulk Hogan made an appearance. They did have some stars, but it was very short-lived because apparently WWE went and signed a bunch of the guys and put a stop to that real quick. So.
Yeah, I don't think it lasted too long, but yeah, I just didn't have the connections, I guess, at the time. And plus, when you're going to start a whole new company, yes, you're going to want some homegrown stars, but they were smart to take some big names just to get their name out there. So I guess that's why they were involved with Hogan and Kurt Hennig, and of course, Jimmy Hart had a lot to do with that.
Did you ever work Japan?
I never did. That was probably one of my regrets in the business. I never really had an opportunity to go. The only time it was ever talked about was after I left WWE. I had thought about maybe trying something over there, but it never panned out. And no, I've never worked Japan, and I really wish I would have because obviously it's so big with wrestling, but a lot of the guys that have worked over there have had great success and enjoyed their time over there. So I wish I would have had another opportunity to do that.
So then you want to get to the TNA run the beginning of TNA.
Yeah, let's get into that. Yep. How did you get connected there?
Yeah.
With TNA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
After the WCW thing, I still kept my contacts with Nashville, so I was still going down there. Like I said, a lot of people were talking about starting some companies, and I want to say some succeeded, some didn't, but the truth is none of them did. But anyway, my whole point to that was because there were so many companies that were starting, everybody thought something great was happening. Well, come 2002, I guess, we heard some rumblings about another company starting up. And, by Jeff and, a couple other guys. Of course, his dad was involved at the time. But they were talking about a new company forming, and they were looking for some new talent. And, of course, we wanted to jump on it, but we just didn't want to get our hopes up because, everything else was kind of falling through the cracks. So I was still wrestling in Nashville. Well, they were having they were having well, it was an indie show, but it was kind of a tryout for a lot of the guys. I know they were testing the broadcast team. I think Don West was on that broadcast team because they were testing him out to see how he would do. And they put together a great card, great indie card. And one of the matches was me versus James Storm. And we had worked together many times, so we knew each other very well. They thought it would be a great match. And, we could showcase our talents to those that were looking. And Storm and I went out, and still to this day, even with all my TNA highlights, it's one of my favorite matches I've ever had. And I remember when we got to the back, I was looking for some kind of feedback, anything. And Jeff Jarrett looked at me, he winked, and he said, "We'll be in touch." And I was like, "Great, man. That's a good sign." And within, I'd say 2 to 3 weeks, Storm and I were contacted and offered contracts.
So how long was it from then when they had the first the debut show when you were in the gauntlet for the gold match?
That show was on June 1st. I remember because it was Storm's birthday. And I think June 22nd, does that sound right? It was the first TNA show. I think it was
the
20.
Know more than us.
Yeah, I think it was the 22nd. So we're talking 3 weeks. We're talking 3 weeks between the time Storm and I had our match and then the first pay-per-view with TNA.
You had to be pretty happy that you were signed for the. I know it was the main event of the card. I know there was a bunch of guys in the match, but I'm pretty happy that was the outcome.
Oh yeah, I was ecstatic about it. I knew that was a big match, but they were smart about it. They signed a lot of big names because to get the attention, but they also signed a lot of younger guys that they could build around. One being AJ, and
I think Abyss was in that match without a mask.
Yeah, right. Abyss was in the gauntlet for the gold, and in fact, him and I traveled together to that show.
Wow. So, what was the talk of, I guess, pairing you with James Storm? How did that come to be?
Well, I mean, they signed us for a reason. They were happy with us. They wanted to sign us, and they thought they could do something with us. The thing is, there was so much going on at the time. They were just starting up a company. I mean, you can imagine the pressure that was on them. So, two guys that you really had no idea what to do with, but you knew that you wanted them. I think they just decided, hey, just put these guys together. Let's see what happens. And, Storm and I have said this many times on record. We were disappointed at first because we thought we were going to be big single stars. Right. But once we realized, that the hand we were dealt, we were like, okay, this is what they want. Put us together. You want to see what happens. As far as the tag team goes, we're going to go out and be the best tag team that there is.
How far into it, you guys teaming up, did you realize that you guys, we're going to be basically the top tag team? How long into it did you realize that?
It was a number of weeks, I guess. The first couple tapings, I think they were still in a feeling out process. They had us involved as a tag team, but we weren't really focused on in the tag team division. But I'd say within a few weeks, once they saw that the crowd reaction with us, because we were pretty over around that area. I know we started out in Huntsville, but wound up in Nashville. And the Nashville crowd, like I said, Storm's from there. I wrestled there for so long. The crowd reaction we got was just phenomenal. And I think once they saw that, they were like, okay, let's go with this. Let's go in this direction. And once we saw that the company was going to get behind us, that even fueled us more, where we were like, all right, we got something. Let's go with it.
So who were some of the? You guys basically just took off and never looked back. But, you know, in those early days, who were some of your favorite matches, and I guess the tag team that you like to work the most with?
I'd say in the early days, we had a lot of battles with the New Church. I don't know if you guys remember them.
Yeah.
That was Brian
Slash
Lee.
and,
Slash and Brian Lee.
Yeah.
And that really that catapulted us even more, because at that point people were noticing, okay, these guys are good wrestlers, but let's see how they can hang in a brawling stage. And because that's what most of those matches were with the New Church, was just brawling all over the place, beating the hell out of each other. And so that really helped us, you know, solidify us as, hey, you know, no matter what we throw at these guys, whether it's wrestling, high flying, brawling, you know, these guys can hang with just about anybody.
So that one of my favorite moments was when Elix Skipper walked the top of the cage. You guys, did you win the title in that match? I can't remember.
No, I don't think the titles were on the line in that match.
So I know you at one point they were the champs, and then you beat them for the titles. But do you remember that match?
Well, there was two cage matches with Triple X, with Elix and Christopher Daniels.
Right.
One match was in the early days. It was the first cage match, I think, of TNA. They put us in, which was it was a great match. I mean, they were very happy with it. And then
I think when he walked the top of the cage, didn't he hurricanrana you? Wasn't it you?
Oh, yeah, that was me. Yeah, you say it was one of your. You said it was one of your favorite moments. It wasn't mine.
Well, I mean, yeah, like, I guess you guys planned that out in advance, though. Like, were you like completely comfortable doing that?
No, I wasn't comfortable, but the inside story was we had worked a few things out in the match, and I think the biggest thing, what I was just saying, the first cage match we had in Nashville, and that was not the one Elix walked on. So the rematch that we had was with the 6 Sides of Steel, right. And that's the one Elix did. So already we had the dilemma of trying to top our first match, which, you know, I thought was a great match. And so already we were trying to, you know, come up with some things to where we could, you know, it was going to be so hard to top it, but at least we wanted to make it respectable. And that was not really talked about. Well, then Elix approached me about it, and I was pretty much against it from the start. I was like, there's no way, man. I mean, I know this guy. He had kind of had a reputation for walking the top rope and doing a hurricanrana. And he said, you know, what do you think about this? And I was like, absolutely not. and
you should have told him to let James take it.
No, then you and I wouldn't be talking about it right now.
That's true.
No, but then it wasn't that much longer in the day. I went back to Elix and I said, do you really think you can do this? And the thing I will remember most about this is that when I questioned him, he did not hesitate whatsoever. I said, do you really think you can do this? He said, absolutely, I can do it. I said, all right, man, let's do it. You know, and I just felt like if he was that confident, I was not going to go against it. And I said, let's do it, man. I'll get up there and I'll be ready. And I was, anybody that's watched that, you saw him slip a couple times. And so there was a few seconds there where I was thinking, okay, we're going to have to go to a plan B here somewhere. And by the time I thought of something else, I was hooked around the throat and off I went.
And I mean, the payoff, it was tremendous, though. The crowd it was really worth it. I will say. I mean, I wasn't up there, but the payoff from the crowd, it was worth it.
Well, the other thing too, you guys just got signed to Spike TV, And you guys had so much buzz. I remember watching that pay-per-view and watching that spot. It was just like I couldn't believe it. Like I had to just, it took the breath out of me. It was just one of those moments. It was unbelievable.
What do you mean the breath out of you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Poor choice of words, my friend.
And that was what the second 3-hour pay-per-view ever for TNA. So I'm sure you guys obviously wanted to tear the house down, and you definitely did that.
Oh yeah, it was a full force, man. I mean, everybody worked together to make sure that those pay-per-views were kick-ass.
When you do spots like that, though, do you have to get backstage, approval, I guess you could say, before you do a wild spot like that? Or is it kind of just between you guys what you're going to do in the match?
I don't remember asking for permission, so I guess we just and the thing is, afterwards they weren't complaining.
No, I'm sure not. Yeah.
No, that match was by far the match of the night.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I like to always say that I was on because that was the pay-per-view that Randy Savage was on. And they were the main event. Or actually, no, I guess
that was Turning Point 04?
Yeah, it was Turning Point 04. And I'm pretty sure they went on after us. So I like to always talk about how I headlined a pay-per-view with Randy Savage, and we're the match that everybody talks about.
Yeah. Well, he didn't do much in that match, but I think based on what I read, I don't think he was too happy with his role, but
yeah, I don't know about all that.
When I guess down the line, I guess we'll get to Hurls unless you have something you want to get to before they split them up.
No, that's, yeah.
So when I guess, like, who approached you with the idea that you guys were gonna, I guess, disband America's Most Wanted, and were you cool with the idea? I mean, I guess you wanted a singles run, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think we were both looking forward to it, and they had talked about splitting us a couple times beforehand in previous years, and we actually kind of fought against it because that just seems like such a cliche, especially back in those days.
Just going to say that the obligatory split of the tag team. It's so cliche.
Yeah, I mean, they just, once you see a success out of a tag team, hey, let's split them up. And so they had tried that with us, and we kind of, like I said before, when Storm and I said we were going to become the best tag team out there. Well, I mean, if you're going to, cut the legs off, that's not going to happen. So we fought against it a couple times, and we got a heel run out of it. So we really enjoyed that. But yeah, I guess that last time it was brought up, I was okay with it just because I thought, hey, let's see where we can go with this. And so there it was. I mean, I guess it was time, and they decided to make me babyface and Storm a heel, which he's a natural heel, so that made sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really did enjoy the time you guys were working with Gail Kim and Jeff Jarrett. I thought that was a fun time as well in your tag team run. It added a new dynamic to your tag team, I thought.
Yeah, it was a whole different aspect of America's Most Wanted. We had been over for so long as baby faces, and that just kind of gave us new life in the tag team, and it worked too because people, man, they hated us, so it was great.
And then I'll never forget the Lockdown 2007.
The funeral?
Well, yes, the funeral was
the funeral for
that
Team
was
3D?
Great. Yes. How much fun was that shooting that segment?
That was the best, man. because that was right after we turned heel, so we had all new characters, and Storm got to be Storm. I mean, he was the highlight of that video.
James Mitchell was pretty good too in that.
Yeah, Mitchell. Yeah. Yeah, it was just a really good idea all around. I mean, it featured a lot of different aspects of it. Storm and I, of course, that solidified us as the heels, and I have to give credit to the Dudleys. They were great to work with, and they did everything they could to put us over as the heels.
And when you guys did split up, I remember at Lockdown 2007, you had the blindfold match with James Storm, and that must have been so hard to put on a good match with those circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, when I look back on it, everybody's going to remember it as a bad match. The truth is, I want to say that it was not a bad match. It was just a bad timing to a bad gimmick. The thing is, Storm hit me in the eye with a beer bottle, blinded me. I wore an eye patch for a number of months. So in wrestling terms, it kind of fit, to come back. Hey, let's have a blindfold match. It makes sense. I was not opposed to it, and I thought, Storm and I could make this work. The problem was when we split, and to have our first match back, a blindfold where we barely touch, the people wanted to see us kick each other's ass, and we didn't deliver that because we had the blindfold match. So we kind of had the cards were stacked against us. The crowd shit on it. Can I say that here?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
whatever the hell you can say, whatever the fuck you want.
the crowd shit on it. Maybe we should have kicked each other's ass first and then had a blindfold match. I don't know what the right scenario would have been, but the fact is they just wanted to see us beat the hell out of each other, and we didn't give that in that first match. That I think that's why when we came back with the Texas Death Match, people still remember that because that's what we gave them, was us beating the hell out of each other.
Yeah, that match was phenomenal. Gosh, so, I'm sure that one hurt like hell too.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's the thing you can do when you go out there with a buddy of yours and you're trying to, you're trying to make a name for yourself. You can get away with just about anything. So Storm and I could hit each other as hard as we could and know that we could have a beer afterwards, knowing that we did the best damn thing we could do. And, people still talk about it to this day. So that's one of my favorite matches.
Yeah, and I feel, and I'm not just saying this because we have you on, obviously, but I feel like I was always waiting for that point for you to have that main event run where you capture, the title. I don't know, was it something that was ever? Did you ever expect to get that main event title run as a singles competitor? Because we always felt, you were one of the originals from TNA. I guess, with like Abyss and AJ and all those, but I'm a little, I was a little let down that you never got that title run. I'm sure you feel the same way, but.
Oh yeah. I mean, looking back, there's a little letdown. There was a little tease of it back in the Nashville days. I had a little run with Jeff while Storm was hurt. Right. And I actually think that, the idea was to go with me over on Jeff, but that was right when we signed the Spike deal, and I think going into a whole new audience, they wanted to put their key players in their key spots, and that meant Storm and I being in the tag team ranks. So I think that kind of put the halt on that title run then. And then, there was a tease of it later on after Storm and I were done. We had our feud, and then I kind of had a little tease with it with the King of the Mountain, but nothing really ever happened after that. I mean, it just kind of fell to the side, and that was when they started bringing in all the big names, and they were getting all the attention. So it just didn't happen. I mean, timing's everything, I guess.
I mean, have you heard Vince Russo's take on this? Apparently,
I heard his take on the earlier days with Jeff. He's actually the one that told me that the idea was to put the title on me, but then it got squashed at the end.
Yeah.
Were you
okay,
super
so you
close
exactly what I heard.
with Jeff at the time? I mean, how close were you guys in these?
Yeah, I felt like I was.
You were with him in WCW, so yeah.
Yeah, I felt like I was close enough with Jeff. But the thing is, no matter how close we were, it wasn't really my place to question what was going on. I was going the way the storyline was going, and so when Jeff and I were supposed to have our title match, I didn't find this out until later, but that's when I found out, Vince told me that, that the direction we were going to go was with me. And, but it got squashed at the end. And that's when they going into Spike, they wanted Jeff in the heavyweight division. They wanted AJ back in the X division, and they wanted Storm and I in the tag team division.
I'm trying to remember which year it was when Jarrett won that King of the Mountain match, and the fans were throwing shit at the ring. I wonder if I off the top of my head, I'm trying to
2006, I believe. 2006.
Was that
yeah.
When
yep.
the ladder Hebner pushed the ladder over, and that to me, it felt like the fans were so invested in that at the time, and that's what really. As stupid as it sounds, that's what really drew me back into professional wrestling, because I hadn't really watched since WCW went out of business.
Yeah, I think the fans were at a point where they, when they get behind something, they you really want to, I don't know if the words is give in to them or what, but there's a certain level where. Jeff needed to take a step back, and right. when he won that King of the Mountain, I think he'd already won one or two of them, but when he won that one, the fans were just like, okay, enough already.
Yeah, the throwing shit in the ring, it was like the WCW days, when it was just good to see the fans even invest so invested in the match. Was that in the Impact Zone?
You do have to give him that. I mean, he got heat with it.
He got heat. He definitely got heat. Was that in Orlando?
I don't think it was. Or was it? Okay.
I think that was in Orlando, because he won one, the first one, which gave him the term King of the Mountain.
All right.
So he won the first one, but then when he won the other one in Orlando, I think that's when people were like, all right, enough.
Right.
That makes sense.
Was that I think he teamed up with Hall and Nash before that, right? I don't think that was during.
Yeah,
that was the Kings of Wrestling was before.
Kings of Wrestling,
right?
Yep.
Yeah, the Kings of Wrestling. That was the turning point pay-per-view with Savage.
Yep.
Right. With Hardy and AJ, right? Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So when that kind of got taken away, I don't know if you knew it at the time, but was that one of the reasons why maybe you're like, well, I've built up quite a following here. Maybe I'm going to see if I can go to WWE. Was that one of the reasons, or was it other reasons?
Well, it definitely wasn't the frustration of the title. It really had nothing to do with that. I mean, I'm a team player, so I'm willing to do whatever. I just wanted to be part of the group. I wanted to just be involved in some way, somehow. That last King of the Mountain I was in, which was 2007, I think that's the one Kurt won the title. Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then I went off in a feud with Christian, which I really enjoyed.
That was very good. Yeah.
Christian's a top guy. I was involved in a top spot. I loved it. After that, I was kind of thrown into an experimental spot with Dustin, because they were trying their hands at that Black Rain game.
Yeah, Black Rain, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't really go anywhere. And then from then on, I just kind of got lost in the shuffle. And like I said, I'm not usually the kind of person that likes to point fingers, but when they started bringing in all these other names and focusing everything on them, I think they kind of lost touch with the homegrown guys.
Right.
And I just kind of felt lost at the time, and there wasn't a whole lot going on. And so I had already been feeling that okay, where are we going? You know, what's going on? You know, what direction are we headed in? I'd already been feeling that, and then right around that time is when my contract came up. And then when they came back, they offered me, you know, way less money than what I was already making. And, you know, not to make this about money, it never was, but I already felt like I wasn't, you know, being used at the capacity I could. I mean, and the only reason I say that, guys, is because I had great matches with Storm. I went into a great program with Christian, King of the Mountain.
Yeah.
You know, I had some momentum behind me, and then they just kind of went nowhere with it. And at the same time, when the contract was coming to an end, then they come back and lowball me. I just thought, hey, maybe this is a sign. Maybe it's a sign that I'm supposed to move on somewhere. So that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Shelley has recently been going on Twitter and just kind of giving some of the history of, you know, his early TNA run. And he, you know, basically just said if you weren't from WWE, they weren't going to give you much time of the day. He said he basically got over despite that. So
I think there's a lot
is that kind of true? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it wasn't until after that, like I left in 2008, and I think at some point after that, they kind of started to push some of the guys. Then Hogan and Bischoff came in. I mean, it just, at some point or another, there was always something going on where, you know, they could hold the young guys down. But, you know, like you just brought up Alex Shelley, you know, him and Saban, great tag team. You know, they could have been pushed to the moon. And I think they did have some great runs there. But, you know, when you had guys like, I think when I left, Booker was there, Kevin was there, Scott Steiner was there, Kurt Angle was there, which I don't want to say anything bad about Kurt, because Kurt was a 100% a team player with everybody. But yeah, they just put too much focus on guys that came from WWE, right, and not enough on the main guys.
The main event Mafia era.
Yeah, they had that. Yeah. They had that, and they were going over on everybody.
Yeah, I heard. I mean, I guess it doesn't. You weren't there at the time. I guess I've read that Booker kind of wasn't really into it at the time, and he took it easy.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
First time I heard that, but that doesn't surprise me a bit.
He's admitted to it, so you know, it's not. I don't think it's a secret. He's openly said that he didn't take that run too seriously.
In fact, around that same time, like right before I left, and this is not to say anything bad about Booker, because I get along with him. He's a great guy, but I had a singles match with him, and with like I said, with the momentum I had been carrying, maybe it was time where they put me over on Booker. I don't know. And instead, it was just a normal match, you know, to put some of the WWE guys over, and you know, Booker went over on me, and it was just kind of like, you know, me sidestep. So I don't know, man. I mean, we can all be secondhand bookers, you know, not no pun intended, but
Monday morning quarterbacks. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. How about? But when you got to WWE, did you have any? I mean, I guess not. But did you have any say in what your character was going to be? I mean, I'm sure the answer is no, but.
I couldn't tell you how long I sat down with the writing committee, and we went through so many different ideas. They wanted me to bring my America's Most Wanted jacket in. They loved that. It was like, you know, there were so many ideas tossed around, and I felt like, hey, we had something really going. You know, they weren't going to just sidestepped me, and I thought we were going to do something, but
Right.
the truth is, by the time I debuted, there was nothing to it. I mean, there was. You mentioned it earlier. I mean, if we would have had some kind of a video package or something, just something to debut me, instead of just sending out some guy on WWE program that, a lot of people probably didn't know, because
Right.
I'd been on TNA, and that's just the way it is. A lot of I was new to a lot of people, so with no intro or anything, I mean, it was just doomed to fail from the beginning.
Right.
There were so many ideas kicked around. Yet when it came time, it was like I never had those talks with them. I mean, they were just, I've said this before, for a $1 billion company, I mean, it just seemed like those guys were working on the fly. I mean, they didn't know what was going on from one day to the next.
Does it make you feel better that they've screwed up a million guys that have come in since then?
It doesn't make me feel better for those guys.
Well, yeah, but
it makes me feel better that it makes me feel better that I wasn't the only one.
Yeah.
But I do feel bad for those guys, because like guys like AJ, I'm happy for his success. I mean,
Yeah.
But the truth is, when I went, there was no interest whatsoever in acknowledging somebody's past.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say that
Which
with
is
me.
kind of something that needed to be done.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that even if you guys remember Monty Brown, he went there, same thing happened.
Sure. Yeah.
Frankie Kazarian actually had an opportunity there, and there was no acknowledgement. I think what happened
Monty
later
Brown's run there was terrible with Marcus Corvon. They
Right,
ruined
right.
him. Definitely ruined him.
And I think Monty is one of the best out there. I think Monty could have been one of the top guys there. But
he's a guy other than you that TNA fans from back in the day still want to see come back now. And when that one night only, which we'll get to, was announced, I mean, people were calling for you, Monty, a bunch of guys that put TNA on the map.
Yeah, but we have to acknowledge that at some point, and I don't know when. I know AJ came in 2016, but at some point they started acknowledging that, because I was so happy for AJ, I was happy for Samoa Joe, I was happy for Bobby Roode. I mean, these guys were coming in, they were letting them have their own name. They were acknowledging, even without saying a name, they were acknowledging that there was a past with these guys, that they had been around the business for all these years. So at some point, somebody woke up and said, okay, these guys, there's a history with these guys. WWE is not all that's out there. But as we've seen in the past, gosh, it's only been a month now, I guess. But, when they released some of the guys back in April, I mean, they could have done so much with. Number one on my list is Eric Young. But then there's Gallows and Anderson. They could have done more with. I mean, I know they had a good run, but they could have done so much more with them. Even EC3. I've never worked with EC3. I've never met the guy, but I think they could have done something more with him.
Yeah, he's definitely one of my.
He showed it on his
his
Twitter. Yeah, his Twitter. He's just created his own character, and it's been. It was really well done.
Yeah, so I mean, hopefully these guys are all in good spots right now, and they can all succeed no matter where they go, wherever it is out there. I mean, that's the one thing about the wrestling business right now, is that things are, even though things are down as far as COVID goes, things are up as far as opportunities. There's a lot of promotions out there. And, hopefully a lot of these guys get signed. They're very talented, and I wish nothing but the best for all these guys.
And I think you hit the nail there with, at the time, I just don't think WWE just didn't pay attention to TNA, and they just didn't, whatever it was, whatever their sentiments was, it just was, I don't know if it was ignorance or what, but You're exactly right. With the wrestlers that you name that went over to WWE around that time and just didn't have that success, which is unfortunate for them because I think they missed out big. But you know, it's good that they did soften their tone about it, at least.
I'm glad they did. They have the attitude of why bring anybody in if they have their own NXT developmental territory. So they're going to bring all their stars in from there.
So then you, after that WWE stint, how did you get back? Who gave you the call to come back to TNA? And you came back as Matt Hardy's mystery partner. How did that go about?
Oh, well, I stayed connected with a lot of the guys there. Even though I wasn't part of the show, I was still hanging out with a lot of the people. Storm and I were always close. I was close with Bobby Roode, with Showtime, Eric Young. So it was always good to hang out with those guys. But yeah, I got the call for, I guess, people were, they were trying to build up for a beer money and Hardy Boy match. And I think Jeff must have got hurt or something. I can't remember the details, but and it just, like I said before, timing's everything. Opportunity arose, and they brought me in for that.
I mean, that was, and then it was interesting too that you were paired up with Matt Hardy, because that was like one of the guys you actually did work with in WWE.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, Matt and Jeff were always cool guys to be around. I had known, obviously I worked with Jeff in TNA, but then I had known Matt as well. So when I went to WWE, even though there was a number of guys that had encouraged me to come over, once I got there, I realized that I had no friends, which, is just another part of the story. You just realize at a quick pace that nobody's there to help you out. But Matt was always really cool, man. He he helped me out on the road with several different things, and then of course we did a couple vignettes, little skits in the back. So yeah, it kind of ironically it happened that way, where it looked like Matt maybe brought me back to TNA.
And so I guess that, did you expect something more out of that second TNA run, or did you know it was just kind of like a one-off?
No, there was a lot more that was supposed to be done. We were supposed to go much more than that tag match. There was a whole blueprint put out for me, and this was by, again, Vince himself, Vince Russo. Where there was a storyline where eventually, of course, this is months down the road, but they were going to have Storm and I tag back up again. And for reasons I still don't know to this day, it just didn't happen. And it turned out to be a one-off. I did some house shows with them, but as far as on TV, it was just that pay-per-view, and that was it.
And that was kind of around the time that Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff came in as well. So I'm not sure if that had anything to do with it, but
I'm not sure. They were actually there when I came back. So I'm not, timing wise, I'm not sure where they were as far as being in control. I do know Vince was writing it because he's the one that I talked to about the story. But as far as why it got cut off, I really don't know.
Did you have any kind of relationship with Sting at that time when you came back to TNA?
Yeah, I had the history with Sting in WCW, and then he worked in TNA for a long time. So yeah, I had a really good history with Sting. In fact, he's the guy that painted my face more than one occasion.
Because who could do it better than the man himself, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It was even there was even one time I have to laugh about it because he was painting my face, and And he just kind of took a step back, and he looked, and he's like, man, it's like looking in a mirror. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Did you, what about any of the other, I guess, vets? Did you have any kind of relationship or any kind of run-ins, I guess, with Nash Hall or I guess Steiner now or any of those guys?
I have to say, man, I had a good relationship with all of them. I mean, Nash, Hall, I mean, the short time Hall was there, Scott, Booker, definitely Kurt Angle. I mean, I had a great relationship with all of them. I don't know if I had the kind of relationship I would go to him to ask him to go to bat for me. Although Kurt Angle once said that he wished he would have, and that kind of made me feel good. But no, I don't think I didn't have any bitter feelings towards any of those guys.
I guess before we kind of talk about, what was supposed to happen, what did you kind of been doing, I guess, for like the last 6 years before we were going to have that TNA reunion show?
Well, I was doing some indie things for a while, but then it just gets to a point. I mean, we all have to accept it. It comes a point where, you gotta start looking towards the end. I mean, the injuries start to pile up, and there's been some health issues. So there's the local area that Abyss and I started in. I've been working heavily with them, trying to help out some of the young guys and bring them up. That's where Carl Anderson came from as well. So there's a pretty good thing going around the Cincinnati area that I've been helping out with, and just trying to stay involved with wrestling as much as I can without being on the the main circuit. But it's been fun, just kind of helping out the new guys and watching all of them take the bumps since I can't.
So I guess let's wait. Oh, I was gonna just get to one night only. I guess who reached out to you? I guess to get you on that show, and I'm dying to know what the plans were for that show for you.
Well, I've always been in touch with Scott D'Amore, and he's obviously the one in charge. I think I'd even shown up at a couple of the shows just to say hi to a bunch of the guys. And then he reached out and said, hey, man, we're going to do a TNA show. And I said, great, let me know. And the only thing that I had heard was they were going to bring back the King of the Mountain match. They had approached me about that, maybe doing something with that. I'm not sure what my limitations could have been, but there was definitely some interest in that. But that's really as far as it got because, everything got called down.
Did you think, was there a possibility that it could have led to a future appearance, or were you expecting that just to be a one-off?
I really don't know, man. Who knows? I did a little something with, I wish I could explain it better, but I think it was just online, but one of their house shows they did in Louisville, I think it was the OVW arena. I did a little altercation with Moose because he was doing the whole TNA, he was the whole storyline with TNA. And so I was sitting ringside and he came and got in my face. I got in his face. And that was kind of to build for the one night only thing.
Right.
Where that would have gone, I don't know. But, in wrestling, usually they don't do anything unless there's some kind of payoff to it. So who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully we still get to find out. I mean, hopefully they wind up doing something with it.
I would think they possibly would. I mean, I've been hearing rumors of them possibly adding that third hour to Impact, and the rumor is it was going to be TNA, and it was just going to be like their own brand. So I don't know. Maybe that's
I haven't heard
something.
That's something you heard that I didn't. So that'd be great.
Mm-hmm. How are you doing physically right now?
Oh, I'm pretty banged up, but I still try to get in the gym when I can, and just Um, I'm just looking to stay healthy nowadays. I'll never be in the shape I used to be in, but doing everything I can, man.
Do you watch any of the current product, whether it be any Impact, AEW, or WWE?
I try to stay up with everything. Even though I really don't enjoy WWE, I try to stay up with that.
Man, give me your honest thoughts on. Let's just start with. I want to know your thoughts on AEW if you watch it. What are your honest thoughts on that show?
I love AEW. AEW. Yeah, man. I mean, I know it's fresh, it's new, so a lot of people that's probably why a lot of people are watching it. But I'm just more intrigued with that than I am WWE. I mean, I'll watch WWE product just because it's on, but I fast forward through most of it. AEW I watch, of course. Impact I've always stayed up with. I think they've just been burst new life, so I'm even more intrigued by their show now. I try to keep up with Ring of Honor. NWA I thought was doing a really good thing. Storm was part of that, so I was hoping
NWA they were definitely onto something there right before COVID.
I don't know where that's going to go, but I hope everything works out with them.
Yeah. So personally, my thoughts, and I guess you probably won't agree with this, but I'm right now I'm back. Like, I think Impact is doing a good thing, bringing back some guys, and I think they're getting back. They still have some, they got some comedy going on with the Wrestle House, but I think they're getting back to what wrestling should be. What were your thoughts personally on them putting the belt on Tessa Blanchard?
I'm probably going to catch heat for this from somewhere.
No, you're not.
I was not a fan of that at all.
Okay, yeah. To us, the fact that she defeated Brian Cage, a fucking machine, and Sami Callihan, who I'm sure you're familiar with, a maniac. It just you want to still believe in wrestling, and that just made it to me unbelievable.
Yeah, I think they even did like a gauntlet or something where she pinned Brian Cage, didn't she? And
yeah,
and I from then on I was just like, this is maybe that was the number one contender spot where she got against Sammy after that, and the thing is, it sounds like we're shitting on Tessa. She's actually a great worker. She's a great wrestler, but she belongs in the women's division.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I didn't mean to shit on her, but that's in my opinion, the heavyweight title match should be between two heavyweight men, and it should be a proper build-up. And I don't know if you've been watching recently, but I also feel like it shouldn't be defended on a weekly basis, which is what they've been doing now.
It should be an attraction.
Yeah, and there's no build-up, and they're just Eddie Edwards now is putting this title on the line every week, like Cody Rhodes is with that title in AEW, and I'm just not a fan of either one of those things. You just know if you're defending a title every week, and tell me if I'm wrong, because obviously you know a lot more than I do. But if you're defending a title every week, as a fan, I'm totally convinced that the person who's defending the title is going to keep winning the matches week after week. And I need some suspense. I want to know that the other person has a shot.
No, you definitely want some build up. The only difference I look at with Cody is I look at the TNT title. I look at that as a TNT TV title.
Right.
So if you want to defend the TV title every week on TV, I'm okay with that. But as long as I almost called him Dean, as long as John Maxley isn't defending every week, and there's a build up for that makes sense. Same with what you were saying with Impact and Eddie Edwards. Yeah. There's no way he should defend that every week.
Right. And he's not even defending it in the main event. He's defending it, in the second match on the card, which it makes the title to me a gimmick title, and it defeats the purpose of the title. I mean, this is the heavyweight championship.
The heavyweight championship is an attraction, and it should be treated as such.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I totally agree.
Do you have any other guys, I guess, between the three shows that you would say to yourself, this guy's going to be a star, or you think this guy's a future?
Put me on the spot with that one. I guess I'm mostly looking at AEW right now because that's probably the show I look forward to the
Yeah, I guess
most.
everybody's answer is MJF, but
The thing is, he is talented and he is going to be a big star. And maybe this is the heel inning getting to me, but I hate watching him. But maybe that's good. Maybe that's maybe that's what they're looking for.
I want to give you my opinion real quick, and tell me if you disagree. You can tell me. But I almost feel that MJF is a parody of a heel, of an old school heel. That his promos and his when he gets in the ring, it's almost a joke. He's making jokes, he's laughing. It's just I don't feel like a Ric Flair or a genuine type heel when he's in the ring. I almost feel like it's a parody of a heel. Does that make any sense?
He almost convinces me that that's how he is as a real person. I don't know if that's true or not. I've never met the guy. I don't know, but yeah, it's almost like he makes a joke out of it. Yeah. And I don't like that. I mean, I want to see a real heel.
Yeah. And that's my problem with AEW right now is it feels like everybody's trying to one up each other on making jokes. And it's just, it's so much comedy. And maybe I'm old school and I probably am old school, but it just seems like there's just too much comedy in wrestling right now.
Oh man, I like old school. I wish we'd get back to it.
Yeah. And that's what NWA to me was doing at the time. Unfortunately, they didn't have the platform for it, but that's what it felt like they were trying to do.
Well, hopefully we get back to it, man.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the saying is what's old is new again.
That's right. Yep. That's how it always works.
Well, Chris, we really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, and good luck to whatever you do in your future. And we hope to see you at least get one more run somewhere down the line. We'd love to see it.
Definitely.
Well, even if it's a short run, maybe we'll get a run.
I mean, whether it's tag team or heavyweight, I'm open for any of it. So you've given a lot to us fans over the years.
It might definitely have to be a tag team. I'm going to have to rely on somebody to take all the bumps for me.
Is there, before we let you go, is there anyone? I guess you're still probably close with James, I would assume. But is there anybody you're still super close with? I guess from your time.
Oh yeah, I stay in touch with Storm. We had a lot of battles with the Naturals. I don't know if you remember those guys, but I'm close. I'm close with Chase Stevens.
Yeah.
And always been close with Abyss. We came up in the business together, so stay in touch with Eric Young. So yeah, I mean, there's a few of the guys that I stay in touch with just to keep up on them and find out what's going on. And
do you have any crazy stories at the bar or anything like that? Any fights? Any shoot fights? Anything like that?
Good Lord, that was Storm. That was Storm and I every weekend.
Yeah. Okay.
Usually it was me trying to hold him back.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I got a buddy of mine who's he's pretty big, and it always seems like he's got a target on his back because one guy just wants to challenge him. Was that kind of like that with you guys?
Oh, there's always that guy in the bar that, wants to come up to you saying, "Oh, you're a big, tough wrestler. Why don't you take me on?" And,
yeah,
the easiest way out of that is just say, "Hey, man, I only fight for money." They shut up pretty quick after that when they, it's like, you give me $500 and I'll take you, let's go outside.
Would you guys hang out like when Impact was being filmed in Orlando? Would that be like, would you go to the bar there at the Hard Rock or where would you stay when you guys were filming over there?
Oh, there was there was a DoubleTree that most of us went to. There was a DoubleTree there. There was a bar down there, but there's a couple places we all went to. I think for the most part, everybody was well behaved. I mean, there was always a few incidents here and there, but especially since that was like one of our mainstays. I mean, we were there every week, every other week. So we had to behave ourselves, or there was consequences.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, boss is, right there. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, Chris, once again, thanks for coming on. Perfect.
Hey, thanks so
man.
much, man, for coming on.
I appreciate it, guys. I hope you had some fun.
Yeah, definitely.
You really did. I hope they have something in store for you, man. I really do.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Yeah. I mean, I try to keep in touch with the TNA guys. So, if anything, I'd like to, become part of the production team somewhere in Impact, just because that's where my heart is. So,
but you still keep in touch. You keep in touch with Scott D'Amore, and
I do, and he knows how I feel. I mean, I told him, I said, I don't know how much I can give in the ring anymore, but if there's anything I can do as far as being an agent role or anything like that, let me know. So I'd love to do something like that. So hopefully something happens with that.
Yeah, that's good to know, because it looks like they're getting Impact back on, at least somewhat back on track, to what it should be from the old regime.
Yeah, I think so, man. I think having some of those guys back is going to really help them.
Yeah. But to me, man, and I don't want to keep you on for too long, but that last TNA run that you had, and like back in I guess even the beginning of TNA days, because I was a huge WCW fan, and when it went out of business, I stopped watching wrestling because I didn't like WWE. I didn't like the WWF. And when TNA started, it brought wrestling back to me. And I guess I just want to, thank you for that, because it brought wrestling back to me watching wrestling every week again.
No, man, those were some really good days, and I appreciate you watching. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Chris, have a good night. And once again, we really appreciate it. And we'll get this thing up pretty quickly here.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me, and thanks for watching as well.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks, man.
You guys take care.
You too.